Hello. General Hospital today will reveal the latest revelations from General Hospital have thrown fans into a whirlwind of tension and emotional complexity as Jack Brennan is capitulated into a high-stakes rescue mission to save Jocelyn Jacks from her own bold misstep. As the plot thickens, viewers are left questioning not only the physical danger Joss faces, but also the emotional implications this rescue might have, particularly for Jack's tumultuous relationship with Carly Spencer. Jack may have entered the world of WSB with strategic clarity, but he clearly underestimated the force that is Jocelyn. She's not just Carly's daughter by blood, she's in her spirit, brave, impulsive, defiant, and unshakably independent. Jack had given her strict orders to remain under the radar, to behave as though she were not affiliated with the WSB, to bide her time quietly. But anyone who truly knows Jocelyn would have anticipated what came next. Jocelyn's decision to secretly travel to Spoon Island was a powder keg of courage and recklessness. Her goal was noble. She wanted answers, truth, justice. Yet her methods, shaped by youthful determination and personal conviction, were volatile. She slipped into the island under cover of a blizzard, counting on the chaos to conceal her presence and drive others away. She believed the storm would give her freedom to investigate undisturbed. But Spoon Island is rarely silent, and its secrets are never left unguarded. Enter Ross Cullum, the ever-watchful WSB director who appeared, much to Joss's horror, in the drawing room of Windermere. His calm presence amid the island's storm-rattled corridors was far more chilling than the storm inside. Ross wasn't just a man caught in a snowstorm, he was a man who was waiting. And now, Jocelyn wasn't merely trespassing, she was exposed. The stakes surged higher the moment Jack discovered what Jocelyn had done. His warnings were never idle. Jack knew what kind of enemy Ross Cullum would be, not just professionally, but personally. He knew Ross had the means and the ruthlessness to make people disappear. And now, Joss had placed herself right in his line of fire. The storm became secondary. The real danger wasn't the snow or the cold. It was the confrontation that was brewing between Jack and Ross. Jack had always tried to maintain a balance between his responsibilities to the agency and the personal lines he couldn't afford to cross. But Joss shattered that line. She was Carly's daughter, yes, but more importantly, she was now someone Jack had sworn to protect, whether he'd ever admitted that to himself or not. As Jack prepared to reach Spoon Island, the challenges ahead loomed larger than the blizzard. There was the storm, of course, obliterating visibility and shutting down communication channels, but even that was nothing compared to the internal storm he now faced. He had to make a choice, loyalty to WSB protocols or personal duty. The mission he now embarked wasn't on just one of extraction or intelligence, it was an emotional reckoning. Every step he took towards Spoon Island brought him closer to the truths he had tried to avoid, that Joss had changed the way he saw the world, and perhaps so had Carly. Carly Spencer, meanwhile, was no stranger to fear or uncertainty. She'd spent years navigating Port Charles through crisis both personal and political. But this was different. The moment she learned of Jocelyn's disappearance, a storm of another kind surged through her, a mother's terror. The knowledge that her daughter was alone, unarmed, and ended up against forces even Carly couldn't manipulate chilled her more deeply than any blizzard ever could. And then there was Jack. She had fought her feelings for him for months, questioning his motives, resenting his involvement in the WSB, blaming him for pulling Joss into a world she should have never entered. But the news that Jack had dropped everything and rushed headfirst into danger to bring Joss home hit her like a wave of conflicting emotion. Could it be that she had misjudged him? At Windermere, the confrontation escalated quickly. Jack's arrival was far from subtle. He came through the storm with desperation in his eyes and fury in his heart, pushing past locked doors and corridors soaked in secrecy. What he found was exactly what he feared. Jocelyn cornered, Ross Cullum looming. There was no time for diplomacy. This wasn't about agency hierarchy or field orders. This was about one girl's safety. Jack made it clear that the lines had crossed could not be walked away. And for the first time in his long WSB career, Jack Brennan was ready to sacrifice everything, his rank, his future, his allegiance, for someone he wasn't even sure considered him family. The fallout from this event may reach far beyond the icy grounds of Spoon Island. Jack has exposed himself in more ways than one. His cover may be blown, his standing with the WSB irreparably damaged. But perhaps the more seismic shift is in Carly's heart. Watching Jack risk everything to bring her daughter back forced her to confront the reality she had tried to deny Jack. They wasn't just a government puppet or a mistake she regretted. He was a man willing to defy everything to protect the people she loved. That realization may be the key that reopens the door she had long since slammed shut. Back in Port Charles, the storm begins to settle, but the emotional wreckage will take much longer to clear. Jocelyn, shaken but safe, may finally begin to understand the weight of her choices, not just for herself, but for those who love her. Carly, watching both her daughter and Jack in a new light, must now grapple with the uncomfortable possibility that forgiveness and love are still possible. And Jack, nursing bruises both visible and buried deep within, must prepare for the consequences of his actions. He knew what he was risking when he raced through that storm. What he didn't expect was how profoundly it would change the way others saw him or how he saw himself. As the next chapter unfolds, viewers are left breathless. Jack may have saved Jocelyn's life, but has he also resurrected his future with Carly, and more importantly, does she now see in him something she never allowed herself to before? Not just a soldier or a protector, but a man worth fighting for. The snow has melted, but the emotional landscape remains treacherous. And in true General Hospital fashion, the calm that follows may be even more dangerous than the storm itself. Recent leaks from General Hospital have shed light on a storyline brimming with quiet intensity and hidden stakes. Jack Brennan is keeping his mouth shut, and the implications are deeper than they first appear. Jack's silence regarding Jocelyn's identity specifically. The fact that she is Carly Spencer's daughter has placed him in a precarious position that may ultimately compromise not just his role in the WSB, but also the fragile relationships he's built along the way. From the moment Jack allowed Jocelyn to operate under his command, he knowingly crossed a line that could be interpreted as a violation of professional ethics. But his motivations weren't rooted in selfish ambition or carelessness, they were rooted in something far more complicated: in human protection. Jack understood from the beginning that recruiting Jocelyn would be controversial. She wasn't just another eager recruit or a name on a roster. She was the daughter of Carly, a woman with deep roots in Port Charles and an unshakable presence in his life. Allowing Jocelyn to participate in any WSB operations meant threading a needle between opportunity and danger, mentorship and manipulation, duty and personal attachment. Yet Jack moved forward quietly, determined to keep her safe by overseeing her himself. It was a choice that reflected both a lack of trust in the agency and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. And now, by withholding her identity and his connection to her from Director Ross Collum, he may have unwittingly set himself up for devastating consequences. Jack's refusal to disclose this information wasn't born out of recklessness. On the contrary, it was a calculated risk. He knew exactly what Ross would do if he learned the truth. Not only would Jocelyn be removed from his supervision, but she might be reassigned to someone far more rigid. Someone who would treat her as an expendable asset rather than a young woman still learning the weight of the world she stepped into. More disturbingly, that reassignment could place Jocelyn under the authority of an agent who would not blink at using her as bait. Leverage. Jack couldn't bear the thought. Nor could he stomach the idea of Carly's heartbreak if her daughter was placed in harm's way due to bureaucratic indifference. So he kept the truth to himself, building a fragile wall of secrecy to shield them both from what he feared would be a colder, more dangerous system. But secrecy in the WSB never stays buried for long. The very nature of the agency is built on exposure, on turning over every stone, on anticipating betrayal from within. Jack's concealment, once uncovered, may be interpreted as a breach of conduct, a manipulation of the chain of command. Or worse, a personal bias that interfered with agency objectives. The question now looming over his future is not just whether he'll be punished, but how severe that punishment will be. The WSB may decide that Jack's behavior warrants reassignment, suspension, or even expulsion. If the agency sees Jocelyn as a liability or as evidence of Jack's compromised judgment, they might respond with swift and public discipline, not only to distance themselves from the controversy, but to send a message to others who dare let emotion guide their even decisions. Of course, the situation doesn't just affect Jack. The impact on Jocelyn herself could be profound. If Jack is removed from her command, she may be reassigned to another handler, one who lacks Jack's nuanced understanding of her strengths and vulnerabilities. It's easy to imagine such a person dismissing Jocelyn's instincts or belittling her personal motives. Worse yet, they might place her in far more dangerous situations without the careful watchfulness that Jack maintained, treating her like any other rookie, rather than someone entangled in a delicate web of emotional political again, and familial pressures. Jocelyn, known for her independence, might resist that control, clashing with authority figures who neither value her insights nor tolerate her disobedience. That in turn could lead to reckless behavior and further peril, something Jack tried so hard to avoid. Carly too would be affected in ways the WSB will likely never acknowledge. Her trust in Jack, already tested by past events, could disintegrate entirely if she learns he's no longer protecting her daughter. Carly has always been a woman who guards her family fiercely. And losing control over Jocelyn's safety, especially to a faceless agency, Carly deeply distrusts would not sit well with her. Her reaction could range from rage to heartbreak, and her relationship with Jack, already hanging in the balance, might be beyond repair. At the heart of all this is a deeply human question. Was Jack wrong to protect Jocelyn in secret, or was he the only one who truly saw her not as an operative but as a daughter, as a young woman? As someone whose life still had chapters left unwritten, the WSB may not appreciate the moral grayness of his choice. But viewers watching from the outside understand that sometimes the line between right and wrong isn't defined by protocol but by compassion. The outcome of this narrative could change everything. If Jack's actions are exposed, he could face professional ruin. If Jocelyn is reassigned, she could be pushed into dangerous missions without Jack's buffer. If Carly finds out the truth, the emotional fallout could be irreversible. And yet, for all these risks, Jack may still stand by his choice. Because in his mind, he didn't make a mistake. He made a promise to Jocelyn, to Carly, and to himself that he would never let the machine swallow them whole. As the drama unfolds, audiences are left questioning whether this noble silence will be Jack's undoing or his redemption. The cost of love in Port Charles is often paid in secrets, but sooner or later the bill always comes due. This could change everything. Until now, Jack Brennan has walked a precarious line between professional ambition and personal betrayal. And for Carly Spencer, the consequences have been nothing short of devastating. From her perspective, Jack spun a careful web, one designed not just to manipulate but to destroy. He used charm and strategy to get close to her, only to ultimately use that intimacy as a gateway to her daughter. The thought that he might have seduced her simply to gain access to Jocelyn and recruit her into the WSB has haunted Carly for months. It's a violation not just of her trust, but of her identity as a mother and a woman who's endured more than her share of deception. And while Jack may argue otherwise, Carly has spent sleepless nights asking the same burning question: was any of it real? The wound cut deeper because Carly wanted to believe it could be. For a time, she considered the possibility that Jack's feelings were genuine, that despite the layers of intrigue and surveillance, he had truly fallen for her.